Plainfield. This is an agenda conference of the Borough Council in North Plainfield. And the first thing we're going to do is do a roll call, please.
Yes, Council President. Corzo.
Present.
Gibbon.
Oh, she's absent excused. I'm sorry.
Oh. Gibbon is absent excused. VP
Yes.
McIntyre.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Miller.
Present.
Schaefer.
Present.
Council President.
Present.
We have a quorum. We can conduct business.
Okay. If we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you're able to and you want to, please feel free to stand. And I know we usually have a flag up there behind Mr. McIntyre. There we go, behind the Vice President. And, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. So the statement of compliance is this. This is a meeting of the Council of the Borough of North Plainfield, scheduled by resolution of the Council adopted on November 10th of last year, 2025. Adequate notice of this meeting was given pursuant to NJSA 10:4-6, exec, and by transmitting said notice to the Borough of North Plainfield website and to the Courier News on November 24th of 2025, and by posting a copy of this notice on the bulletin boards which are reserved for such a purpose in the municipal building and over in the public library. That's a compliance statement, and we did our roll call. We do have a quorum, and so now we go to open the floor to public comment. If any member of the public wishes to make a comment, there's a couple ways you could do that. You could physically wave to us, and we'll give you the floor. Or you can think through Zoom. There's a way to electronically raise your hand. A little hand emoji comes up. And the format is this. We don't mandate, but we simply request. If you wish to, please give us your name, spell your last name, and then give us your address. Each member of the public wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes for that purpose. And public comment can last for a collective 30 minutes altogether. Public comment. Mr. I'm sorry, Vince, could you help me?
Yeah. It's pronounced Vingileos.
Vingileos. Mr. Vingileos, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Skip. So public comments is in the beginning of the meeting tonight, huh?
Yeah, so we have two meetings tonight. We have an agenda conference and a regular meeting. At the agenda conference, it comes at the beginning, and in a regular meeting, it comes at the end. And the nights where we only have a regular meeting, we don't have like the workshop or agenda conference, it comes all the way at the end of the night. But we actually have two tonight, beginning and end, because we have the two meetings.
Two bites at the apple. I like that. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you very much. Good evening, council. Good evening. Is the mayor in attendance tonight or no?
Yes, he is, right up at the top.
Okay.
Mayor
I only have so many boxes open here, so I guess I can't see everybody. Good evening, mayor. Good evening, council. Hope you all are doing well. Just wanted to mention a couple of things. As you guys noted, I know, Skip, you were I missed the last meeting. In the beginning of January, you were absent. I announced that I would be running as an independent candidate for council at large. And I wasn't able to make it to the last meeting. I had attended Plainfield, which was on the same night. I had some things that I was working on over there. Won't be going back there to anymore. I want to continue to be at these meetings. I know I mentioned, even though you weren't here, I mentioned how they came up with this unconstitutional resolution banning silence, singing, dancing, stuff that was personally meant to target me. But I'm the founder of an organization called the Neutralization of Council Meeting Conduct. And we all showed up. I had a group of us, and we violated all their decorum rules that violates the Constitution. So I pointed them in the right direction in terms of, their corporate counsel giving bad legal advice and stuff like that. Ultimately, my goal when entering a municipality is to leave it a little bit better than I found it. As I am attempting to pull back from other municipalities, I want to focus on North Plainfield here. So one thing I want to mention is I announced on the North Plainfield Borough Township page on Facebook. I announced that I was going to be running and I'm an independent candidate, just alerting residents of a possible option of, a new option come this next election. And I was upset to see that the township page decided to disable comments. I already had the odds stacked against me incredibly as an independent candidate after Phil Murphy passed legislation making it a requirement for me to have 250 signatures to get on the ballot. That's that. I mean, I would like to at least, attempt to do this with dignity. So I'm alerting the residents about my campaign, and then the township shuts off commenting, and I have a problem with that because I live here. I thought maybe it'd be different in my own town. A lot of times people, they look at anybody who is criticizing them as, somebody who's not being genuine or whatever have you, whatever it may be. I can't speak for other people, but I thought maybe it'd be different here in my town, and I want to work together with you guys. I'm not trying to do anything other than what I'm required to do, and just give myself the best opportunity to get myself on the ballot, get the signatures. And like all I did was just alert the residents of my campaign page. And I mean, there's Supreme Court cases that already say that these are public forums, so these pages belong to the people. Linky versus Freed, 2024, Ratcliffe O'Connor versus Grenier already established that these are public forums. There's state level cases, Ronco versus Carteret, Yade versus Hamilton. You can't disable comments. So we disabled comments on all of the posts once I announced and just notified residents that they have a different option. So I would like to, last meeting I asked as a show of hands who thought that these meetings should be televised and made available for the public after the meetings concluded so people can see what's going on at these meetings. Because I don't know if you guys are doing a good job or not. And if you are doing a good job, we should be showing the public this. Unfortunately, Mr. McIntyre was the only one who raised his hand, and I congratulate him for doing so, because I'm just communicating something simple. I would think we would all be on the same page with this. But I would like to maybe do this again as a show of hands, but a different question. Who thinks that it's okay to shut off commenting on the official township page? Who thinks that's okay as a show of hands? Okay, I'm glad I worded it differently because that means we're all on the same page that it's not okay. So I would like to possibly have some clarification as to why that was done, who made that decision, and try to get some clarification over that. I already got the odds incredibly stacked against me. Let me lose with dignity. Let me, let me at least alert the residents of an option. I'm not asking for much. You know what I mean? I don't want to be treated as, somebody who doesn't deserve an opportunity, kind of thing or whatever. I guess other than that, I'll just mention too, a resident had reached out to me and said that she lives on Girard Road, and she was saying that she wanted me to mention that no plows made it down her streets today. I guess there was a truck, but it got stuck, and then they had to push it out, but it ultimately never made it down our street. I said I would let you guys know about that. But other than that, I just want to know what we can do about turning the comments back on so we can have communication on our public forum. And that's about it, Skip.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for letting us know about Girard Avenue. We appreciate that. And I'm going to, if the mayor wants to respond, I know I'd seen your post on the police department's post, your post about the comments being shut off on a previous post. And I don't know if the police department was talking, doesn't matter what their post was about. It was about this coming snowstorm or something. I saw your post and I reached out to the mayor because I'm in agreement. I don't know. I'm not going to debate. I believe you. I wouldn't presume to debate you on this, but I don't know if we have to have them on the comments. I think we should, irrespective. And I asked the mayor, I'm like, hey, how do these get turned off? So he said he was going to look into it because I don't presume to speak for Mayor Laurent, but I think he agreed too that like somehow we don't shut off the comments on stuff because people will sometimes, depending on the post, someone will write in with a follow-up comment. I mean, sometimes stuff is trivial. Like for instance, I know the police sometimes when they get a lost dog, They post pictures of the lost dog and say, look, we're looking for the owner of this dog. This dog was found in the neighborhood of Grandview Avenue. And then people start writing in, oh, that reminds me of the dog I had when I was a little kid. My first, nobody cares. Nobody cares about, your first dog when you were a kid. We're just trying to find the owner of this dog. So sometimes comments get like really off track, but we don't disable the comments. So it was kind of unusual that it happened. So I know the mayor was going to look into it. I know that Borough Hall was closed today, so I don't know if he had an opportunity to look into it. I know Mayor Laurent, if you want to reply to that now, you did look into it, or when we reopen tomorrow, you're going to look into it, or whatever. I don't know if you want to reply to that right now, or
I am following up on it to find out what the rules and regulations are.
Okay. Yeah, because usually we don't bother doing that. I mean, we just, to my knowledge, when something's posted, it just stays open. So
Yeah, mostly that Facebook page is mostly for informational, getting out to the public. But we're looking to find out what the policies are on our governmental Facebook page, whether we can have comments or not. So
I just want to add one more thing. The way that would get litigated was it's not required to have comments on. So if the page originally didn't have comments, then there would be no issues. But it winds up being viewpoint discrimination when it's shut off during that time after I announced my candidacy. So since commenting was originally on, the way that would be fought out in court, which it should never have to go there, would be that it's viewpoint discrimination. And just also with when the police get the dogs and stuff like that, I hope we have animal controlled certified officers who are picking those dogs up, because if an officer gets bit or whatever, I mean, there's, protocols for these things, and that could be a liability for the borough as well. So just wanted to add that. So thank you for your time.
No, just so you know, too, we also have a contract with, I forget what they're called now, but they used to be called the Plainfield Area Humane Society. They're our animal control officers. So
Cool.
I think the police department is where the animal ends up, as like temporarily, hoping that the owner comes forward in like, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. But yeah, and I think we do also have officers trained, but we do have a contract with people who specialize in that. So
thank you for all your answers, Mayor and Skip. I appreciate you guys.
no, not at all, not at all. All right, additional public comment. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. We now go to the first item of new business, and that is regarding affordable housing. And joining us tonight, I'm going to turn it over to the mayor for that, the administrator, whoever wants to take the lead on this. But we have Paul Greigel here to regale us with stories about affordable housing. So, Mr. Mayor, and then Mr. Greigel.
I'm going to throw it right to Paul so we can get this just done with. He's the expert.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President. I could regale you with tales. I'd prefer not to this evening because there's a lot to be considered. There's a lot of background here, too, actually, quite frankly. I will try to hit the main points of how North Plainfield and every other municipality got to this point. Real quick, I think what's most relevant for tonight's discussion is last year, actually 2 years ago, 2024, a new law was passed setting forth the whole set of procedures, deadlines, etc., for the fourth round of affordable housing compliance in New Jersey. And as I mentioned, it set forth certain dates for actions to be taken by the planning board and by governing bodies. North Plainfield complied with those. I won't go through all of them, but essentially we're at the point now in the process where after essentially joining that fourth round process, the planning board adopting a housing element and fair share plan, and then it went through a review period where anyone could issue a challenge. A Fair Share Housing Center, it's a statewide advocacy organization, did do so, as it did for, I think, 400 plus other municipalities throughout the state, so it's not an unusual thing. But essentially just raised some issues with regard to the plan that was adopted last year by the planning board. And we're at the point in the process now where after that was vetted by the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program, recommendations were made from that program judge. And now North Plainfield, like many municipalities, is seeking to modify the plan that was adopted previously and add some other components to it. So there are two ordinances on the agenda for this evening that are specifically tied towards implementing what came out of that program process. And I know I just put a lot of information out there, but so at any point, if you want to stop me or need more clarification, I'd be happy to do so. But if not, I'll keep going and then try to explain again what the ordinances are in high level terms and then give some more details.
Okay. Council members, you okay so far? All right. Please proceed, Mr.
Great.
Greigel. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so in this process, the rules have changed through the law from 2024, and for that matter, there've also been some related changes to state regulations, namely the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls. That's an administrative code section dealing with, essentially a statewide regulation of pricing of units, all kinds of very detailed information, very administrative. Likewise, there was also some other sections of the state administrative code that were changed. So, because of those changes, the ordinances that were put forth as drafts back last year actually became outdated. So, for whatever reason, the process has been in flux literally as we've been going through it since about a year ago. So, at this point, we have two ordinances on the agenda. The one I'll deal with first, I have the number here, 26-03, is essentially it's the easy one because it's essentially reflecting all the changes in state law from that fourth round and updates to the regulations. So for development fees, for essentially anything else that is already on the books in North Plainfield, you have an affordable housing ordinance that addresses all kinds of very detailed regulations as to pricing of units, how essentially design of affordable housing units within developments, etc. That's all already been in your ordinance. We've just proposed a number of changes to update it to be concurrent with the state regulations as they now read. So that's Ordinance 2603. The only other change in there was there was a duplicative section that I discovered from maybe last time around. We did this back in 2020. Essentially, maybe for whatever reason, it essentially said the same thing twice regarding inclusionary housing regulations. So the reason there's one being deleted is just because it's already essentially covered in another section. So that was section 22-133. That's really the only substantive change in my opinion. And again, it's not taking anything away. It's just literally making sure you know where to look for it. You're not looking in two different places and dealing with the same thing. The other ordinance, 26-02, this includes actually some updates to existing affordable housing overlay. There's an overlay zone for the old mill site, so there's some slight changes proposed to that. So if you recall, that's I forget the exact Brook, maybe around that. I forget exactly now.
Brook Avenue and Pearl Street.
Yeah, I gotta say Pearl Street coming to mind as well. Yes, but anyway, that was already dealt with back in 2020. Regulations were put in place, a new affordable housing overlay zone. Since nothing has changed with it, essentially, Fair Share Housing Center looked and said, well, you have to make it maybe slightly more desirable to a developer, increase the density, reduce the setback in the rear yard, maybe do a few things to try to make it more attractive. Again, there's no obligation. The borough has to do anything here. It's not borough money being spent to build there. It's if the private property owner or a buyer says, I want to build there, these will be the regulations that already are in place and are being modified slightly to try to attract redevelopment on that property. So that's part of that ordinance 26-02. I guess the bigger changes are Fair Share Housing Center requested some new ordinance sections be prepared, including overlay zones. And again, I'll step back for a second. The overlay zones essentially zoning that, as the name implies, goes over the existing regulations you have to say now you can also have multifamily housing with an affordable housing set aside. So again, that's what you have on the old mill site already. Fair Share Housing Center says, hey, your obligations, to help address them, you need to provide some additional zones. So they recommended 4 different sites. They are listed in the ordinance. I will note for the record, they're all on Route 22. They're developed sites in most cases. Again, nothing is forcing any property owner to do anything to change what's out there. I could certainly go into detail as to what's there today, but there's some commercial properties. If and when a developer wants to modify what's on the site, they could utilize this new zoning if adopted to do so. But this is just to provide additional opportunities, a different section of the borough for new inclusionary or affordable housing. So again, that's all listed in the ordinance. There's detailed regulations proposed for those. There's a second, so that's AH01. I know I'm again throwing lots of measures. the Affordable Housing Overlay Zone 1. Affordable Housing Overlay Zone 2 is for, let's common address 99 Westerville Avenue. That's on the church property. I believe it was a convent directory that's there today. Catholic Charities had approached the borough previously about potentially, looking to redevelop on that site. No deal has been worked out thus far, but in discussing with Fair Share Housing Center and the program, it said it makes sense. If there's someone potentially interested, an entity that wants to develop there, you should provide zoning that would allow for it. So in that case, it would be for age-restricted housing, essentially senior or active adult housing, 55 and over, all affordable units on that location. So there's a zone that's been put forth that would allow for that Catholic Charities affordable housing development on the 99 Westerville Avenue site. That's what's proposed. Again, I'll step back. I kind of jumped over it. The obligation that the borough has, there are numbers that were set that were agreed to. Right now, North Plainfield has met all of its obligations for the third round, the last round. For the fourth round, because there's no land left, and you've had other projects such as Villa Maria and various group homes, there's no immediate need to build anything. Your number is 0 for building at this time. However, this is where it gets a little tricky, but the law basically says you have a larger number, even though you can't address it now, you don't need to address it now. There's still an unmet need. That's the term that's in the law. Unmet need out there that you need to address over time and put more. That's what these opportunities are addressing. That's why they're not. You don't have a developer set up. You don't have anything definitive, but that those overlay zones 1 and 2 would help address that unmet need. I apologize for taking that a little bit out of order, but I just want to make it clear. The borough has been proactive, has done everything it's been asked to do, and is in a spot right now where you're just dealing with this, if you will, almost more hypothetical or future unmet need. With that, I'll take a breath. Be glad to answer questions, go into more detail on anything I've talked about or on the ordinances.
Council, questions for Mr. Geigel. Ms. Schaefer, start with you. Hand one up first.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm just curious. So we have 10 years to meet this need.
Yes.
So although we don't have to meet it right now, we're going to have to meet it within the 10 years.
So that's a great point. So the affordable housing rounds that they are now, the round 3 was supposed to be 10 years. It took 20 something.
Right, yeah.
But right now we're in the 10th, but now we're the new law set for 2025 to 2035, 2035, etc. Round 4, round 5, down the road. As far as the obligation, again, the prospective need, the real estate development in North Plainfield, the number is already met over that 10-year period. It's just that that unmet need that's hanging around in the new law, it actually says that you must put in place zoning or other mechanisms that will address 25% of what that unmet need number is. And I can get you that. But it's roughly 56 units over 10 years is what was determined to be that unmet need. That's not, you don't have to do anything more proactive than just putting the zoning in place. In other words, you have to commit to get a developer, you don't have to spend borough funds or anything like that. But it's over a 10-year period. I'm not sure if I answered the question there. Sorry.
No, but so the 56 units we have to do in 10 years, within 10 years. So what, it's 2005. So in 2035 or in 2033, we're going to be bouncing off the walls, begging people to want to build.
No. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but no, the difference, yeah, again, I could go into more detail on this whole issue. Essentially, because you already met your obligations previously, it's weird how it breaks out into this. Essentially, the realistic development potential is addressed. There's no vacant land available. So the way the law treats it and the court treated it in reviewing this plan is this unmet need is just as things happen. In other words, if someone were to, I will say there's also a borough-wide, and I'll take a slight diversion just because it's important, that if anyone were to come out of the blue and say, I've got a 10-acre property or 2-acre property, whatever, it's not my half-acre property, I want to build 10 or 12 units, that developer would have to set aside 20% as affordable housing.
Of course.
So that's on the books already. This is, though, that Fair Share Housing Center and the court agreed, said you need to at least provide something that's a little more realistic than that. But again, you don't need to get a commitment. If none of those 56 units get built, North Plainfield's not going to be penalized for it. because
Okay.
you did what you needed to. So again, I'm not saying you just don't want them or shouldn't have them, but it's not a number that's hanging over you and say, like you said, 10 years from now, suddenly you haven't done anything and you're stuck. That's not the case.
So if
Okay.
I can interrupt, it's not like it used to be.
It's definitely not like it used to be. It's again, it's the way this is broken out is, yeah, it's in the two different parts. The main difference is that 25% was added to the law in 2024. That even, in other words, so developed municipalities such as yours, you can't just say we have no land, we can't build, and we'll never address around that need. The law essentially was changed to say that's fine, but you still need to figure out something that addresses. So 56, so it's 15, roughly 14 units would be covered by that. You need to get 25% of that 56, have it more realistic, but
Okay.
not commit. And it's sort of like a gray area, you know what I mean? It's not, yeah, it's not saying you got to go out and make it happen, but yeah, make it a little more practical, a little more realistic in the future. Right. But it's
Okay.
definitely different than the way things were done early in the third round and prior rounds.
Okay. Good.
No, Ms. Schaefer, I interrupted you. If you have a follow-up,
I
please.
did, but I
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
It left my head.
Oh,
It's
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
okay.
Well,
That's okay.
while you try and recall it, I'm
Mhm.
gonna, if any other member of the council has questions for Mr. Greigel. Okay. Try and think quickly, Wendy.
I got it. I got it.
oh,
Oh, you got it? Okay, well, if it's
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
you then.
good.
Builder's remedy. So we're
Yes.
excluded. We're excluded from that.
Yeah. Oh,
We
yeah.
don't
So,
have to
yeah.
worry about being sued or
There's a question.
whatever.
Yes. The question. There's such a thing as a builder's remedy lawsuit that if you did
Mhm.
not go through this process and get immunity, um, North Plainfield will be open to anyone could come and say, I've got a nice piece of land here and you don't allow housing. I think we could do a
Mhm.
20-story building and, make it all affordable or even 20% affordable. And since you didn't do anything, when you essentially have to approve it, or the court will at least, come up with something between what they're proposing. The whole point of this new set of regulations was to make it easier to follow these steps. North Plainfield has taken all the steps. So again, based on what the court said now, the last few steps are going back to the planning board to amend the housing element fair share plan, adopting these ordinances. There's a few other things. You have some resolutions, I believe, next meeting, Mr. Hack will tell you about.
Mhm.
Um, they're just, again, more administrative. And once that's done, no builder's remedy law, you will be you'll have immunity from those suits for a
Yeah.
period of 10 years. Or the clock's already started in 2025, but yes, until
Mhm.
2030, July of 2035, correct.
Okay, great. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You will. Yes, and that really for you to jump in. That reminded me that the planning board will be taking action at its next meeting on the amendments to that housing element fair share plan. That was another step that was required. Council just will need to you will need to endorse that amended plan after that meeting happens. And I know the timing lines up to do this. We made sure it's a special meeting, in fact, I believe, of the planning board to make sure that happens. So that will be done at the first Wednesday in March.
Great.
Council President, I just want to add a little bit. Paul, as always, does a great job of explaining it and better than I could do. I just wanted to emphasize that by adopting these ordinances and by adopting the amended fair share plan, it also essentially resolved the challenge to the housing element of fair share plan that was lodged by Fair Share Housing. So, and it allows us to move forward toward the compliance phase of the case, right? As opposed to having to deal with a challenge. We're done with that. We'll be done with that by implementing, particularly the ordinance, the second ordinance that Paul talked about with respect to the overlay zones. That essentially resolves that challenge with fair share housing and provides the pathway to move forward into the next round without having that challenge to deal with that challenge any longer.
And just, I'm sorry to interrupt. For the please let the record reflect that Ms. Given joined us at 8:02 p.m.
Received.
Great, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Hackett, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, council members, if there's additional questions for either Mr. Greigel or Mr. Hack, now's a ideal time. All right. Okay. Seeing nothing, Mr. Greigel, I think you're off the hook.
Oh,
Thank,
okay.
thank you
Always
very
a
much for
pleasure.
joining us. I know your schedule was busy tonight, and I really appreciate you being here for this. And thank you very kindly.
Not a problem. Great to see you.
Thanks,
Will.
Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Have a night.
Likewise.
Okay.
Take care. Good night. All right, so the next item on new business is our 2026 municipal budget. And for that, we have Ms. Intravatolo and Mr. de Blasio have joined us. And again, for that, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you have any introduction for this, if you're going to turn right over to him.
No, I'm going to turn it right over to Patrick. He already knows where I'm coming from.
All
Sure.
right.
Good evening, everyone. On December 8th, the mayor kicked off the 2026 budget season. I can't believe we're here already. And by that, he held meetings with all department heads, the administrator, Kitty, myself, and it was an open meeting as well. And then we went through all the budget requests. We managed to, after that, put together our financial statements. They should be now online or going to be online shortly. And now we get right into the 26 budget, and it certainly is a challenging budget, and I'm going to address some of those highlights quickly here. So if we forwarded books to everyone, both in paper and through email. It looks like the 26 budget is going to have an increase of 11.5 cents. I'm going to get into that, and that's in the tax rate. What that means to the average homeowner is about $248. Certainly, any increase is not really a desire of the mayor or the administrator, but we're going to explain where we're at. So in 2026, our valuations went down about $4.5 million. And I understand the governing body here is we're going to be redoing our values in 26 to be booked in 27, and hopefully that will stabilize our valuations a bit. Our surplus finished the year 2025 finished with a very good year. We finished with our surplus of about 5.8 million. That's up about 300,000 compared to 5.5 million the year before. So with that, I'm flipping the page here if anybody's following along or not. We're going to highlight some of the largest revenue changes and some of the largest appropriation changes. And I'm going to jump down to the appropriations. That's the numbers that we use to run the government there. And our expenses are up 2.5 million roughly, which is pretty high. And I'm just going to point out a couple of line items. Payroll's up 848,000. Group insurance went up. We're in the state health benefits plan. I think we have to be in that plan. It went up about $600,000 to the employer, us, and then also the employees. We hear them complaining quite a bit because they pay 35% of their premiums. And if they didn't do that, our bill would be a lot higher. But 600,000 is a pretty heavy lift for the town to undertake. Then we have all these other insurances, all the liability insurances and deductibles and workers' comp and all that stuff. That came up about $100,000. Pensions up about 42,000. And I guess the real kicker here is we had that big storm, which was devastating to our town in July. Actually, two events there. While we now have to pay back, we have to pay back 1/5 of the $1.3 million. So that impacted our budget by 260 grand. And on top of that, we also have to pay debt service on that. So it's a little bit of a double bang there. And then we have the revaluation that we approved there at the end of 2025. And that's $800,000, and we have to pay back $160,000 a year for the next 5 years to pay off that. And then our debt service is up about $418,000. So if you add them all together, just roughly, it's about $2.5 million of increases. Now, this budget raises taxes about 1.6 million, 1,650,000. So what we did is we utilized more revenues, and this was a pretty thought out decision by the administrator and the mayor. Since we did recover all of our surplus and made some extra, we're looking to increase the surplus line item from 2.8 million to 3 million. And if we do that, we're actually reducing taxes by 200 grand. So that was a decision made by the group. Court had a banner year. The court revenues, we thought we'd collect 400 grand. We came up to 650. State aid is level. And then the next item I just want to point out is we do have money in our capital fund, and it's accumulated. Whenever we have notes, we get premiums, and when we have a bond sale, we get premiums in there. So we're currently holding a little over $700,000 in that account. And talking with the administrator and the mayor, they pretty much said, hey, let's use half of it. It's a one-time revenue. Don't use it all because you're really gonna just kick the can down the road, and you're gonna have to make up 700,000 next year. So when you have a one-time revenue, it's just not going to be there next year. But the mayor decided to use half of it this year, so we won't be punished in next year's budget. So that's a quick summary of the revenues and expenditures. We're giving it to the governing body tonight to see if you have any questions. Our goal is to introduce this budget. You have time to reflect on it and get to the administrator there or to the mayor if you have any questions or comments, or to Kitty or myself. And the goal here is to simply introduce the budget at the next council meeting. I don't know if I have too much more to say without consuming a lot of time. Kitty, did you have anything to weigh in on that, or Dave or the mayor?
No, Pat, I think you covered it pretty good.
Thank you.
So, Mayor, Mr. Holland, anything before I turn it over to the council for questions?
No, pretty much what the council sees is what me, Patrick, Kitty have gone through for the last couple of months, and this is the best we've come up with. So now it's, just comments from the council to see if there's anything we need to look at.
Mr. de Blasio, I don't know if this is for Mr. de Blasio or Mr. Holland or you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Blasio, you spoke our court revenue being up significantly to $650,000, the collections of the court. Do you know why is that? Is that because like we're on the credit card system now, or like what's the driving for? I see Mr. Holland has an answer for this. What's the reason?
The largest part of that is stepped up police enforcement and activity, most specifically due to we call them the safety sticks that are tagging people who are parking in overtime situation or parking too close to intersections. All of those are now in effect. I think the rollout of the last phase came this earlier in 2025. So we're seeing the impact of that.
That's great. And I just without wandering too far afield, tangential to that, I think it's important to note, I mean, and you made mention of that these things, because I know a couple people have asked me questions, these sticks, these cameras are basically monitoring places, corners, intersections, areas near fire hydrants, etc., where it was not okay to park to begin with, and where it was already yellow curb, and people were just parking there because they felt they could. So we didn't take parking spaces away. We're not trying to push traffic away from businesses or the post office or anything like that. These cameras are simply monitoring places that it was not permissible to park to begin with. So I think it's great that these things are in, and I had no idea this is a windfall. I mean, I don't like to look at something like that for the financial side. I like it as a public safety matter, but I'm sure not going to kick up any fuss that it raised $200 and some thousand. So that's some pretty nice icing on that cake.
It is.
In terms of public safety. So especially at a time when we could use it. So that's great. Yeah, Mr. Holland.
I might also add that we have increased some fees in the health department. I think that went into effect last year. We're also looking at a wholesale review of our construction fees right now. There's recommendations that the attorneys are drafting up into an ordinance form, and I expect that once the construction department reviews that, we'll get that before the council at one of the upcoming meetings in the next couple of months.
Okay, awesome. We'll keep an eye out for it. Thank you. All right, council members. Any other council members have questions at this point? Ms. Corzo.
Hi, thank you. A few questions. So the 260,000 that we didn't pay last year, that we're paying this year for emergency storm relief, that's a payment on what we borrowed for what happened in the summer?
Sure. Yeah. So that emergency was $1.3 million, and it's called the 5-year emergency. And what that means is that we take that divided by 5 years, and we have to pay back $260,000 a year over the next 5 years.
How much did we spend on the emergency on the flooding?
Um, we do have, well, it's kind of, I believe, Kitty, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you even know, I think we have about 100,000 left in
Yeah,
that
just about
thing.
all of it, Pat.
Yeah. So it looks like, Ms. Corzo, we spent like 1.2 million of that, roughly,
1.2 million?
about that.
Okay, so I'm having trouble knowing. So that whole 1.2 million was borrowed?
Yes, unfortunately, it's kind of a requirement that when you have an emergency, you have to borrow those funds. And if you don't borrow those funds, they get pledged against the surplus and it would reduce our surplus. Here we monitor the surplus. We want to make sure that we get to use it for what we consider a bit of tax relief. So we did increase the surplus from 2.8 million to $3 million. So yes, not only do we incur that, but how do we come up with the cash to pay for that? We have to borrow that.
So do we ever allocate any money for it? Because I know
Yeah, so the emergency happened in 2025, and since it's after the budget, we didn't allocate money for it. We had to declare an emergency, so we raise it, we fund it over the next 5 years, we pay off the emergency. So next year, instead of borrowing in 26, 1.3 million, we'll borrow 1.3 million minus the 260.
Okay, so that's common practice that we just wait for the emergency to happen and then we borrow to pay for it. Because what I'm getting at is, can we allocate money so we don't have to borrow at least that much and pay the interest on it?
Um,
Doesn't it make sense to allocate?
Mr.
There
Mayor.
is actually, Ms. Corzo, a line item that is budgeted towards emergencies, like
That's
for
what I
these
asked before.
last two
Yeah.
snowstorms we had.
Okay.
That's in the budget, so we're not having to take out loans against that. But this was above and beyond what we normally budget
Which
for
is
emergency relief.
okay. Okay. So it wouldn't behoove us to allocate more, so we would have to borrow less. I know we have to get it from somewhere.
We could. I mean, we can add more to that line item so that it's there. But again, that's going to raise the property tax across the board. And we were trying to keep it, where it's a little bit more manageable, as much as we all don't like where it's at. But that's, we're trying to keep numbers down low. But if, the council wants to raise that section, we'll be glad to do that.
Mr. Holland?
I would also point out that in the case of the two weather events we had in July, there was no state or federal funding that we received to offset those costs. Normally, and that's due to just the highly localized nature of those two events. And normally, the county will accrue a certain amount of damages on a countywide basis that qualifies for federal funds. In this case, the damage for the first event was largely in North Plainfield when all the trees came down. And then the second one was the flooding. That was essentially Watchung, a little bit in Warren, North Plainfield, and Plainfield, which is in another county. So we did not meet the threshold to qualify for federal aid for those. Normally, we would get federal aid in such a magnitude of a disaster, and that would apply to reduce our out-of-pocket expenses for such an emergency.
Yeah.
So this was an unfortunately unique and very localized situation, but my fear is that these are the storms of the future that were going to be occurring. These short, intense, very localized flooding and weather events that are going to be soon become the norm, for us and other towns.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying we're just going to keep on borrowing it and paying interest on it because it's going to keep happening. Shouldn't we, put a little bit more? But okay.
Actually, Ms. Corzo, if I can ask you to just hold that thought for a second. On that point, with regard to that, does anyone know off the top of their head what the interest rate is on what we borrowed, or roughly?
Yeah, I think
because at a certain point you're going to balance like, hey, should we put this in the budget now and raise the taxes for it? And heaven forbid, then we end up Murphy's. Hopefully we wouldn't use it, or well, we don't want to do that. Let's just wait and hold our breath and see if there's another storm and borrow the money if we need it. So it's like tax increase or interest. So, but what is it right now? It sounds like we're going to wait and see if we get hit with another storm, borrow the money if we need it. But so did we get at least a decent interest rate on what we did borrow?
Yeah, I'm looking that up now, but I believe it was 3.5%.
Okay. It didn't.
Not bad, but it's still a mill something, 3.5% of a mill something, but it's,
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Corr. Let's turn it back to you.
yeah,
Sorry about that.
all right, I have a few questions, so I'm going to keep going. Some of them are little ones I just want to know. So the maintenance of parks and other expenses is up by 50%. That's not a lot. It's 5,000, but it's still 50% because it was 10,000. But in 2025, what was paid out was actually $425. So why raise it like by 50% if doesn't show like there's a need, or is there a need coming?
The problem with the last year's line budget on that, if I'm not mistaken, Patrick, is the money that was spent for the parks was not allocated out of the right section. But we end up putting mulch in twice a year, which should have came out of that line item, and it did not. So that's why we're looking at the pricing. The price for mulch has gone up. Price for overall maintenance on those parks are going up.
I agree with the mayor there. So when department head came in and spoke about that, he did say he needs that budget to be elevated because of the mulch, like the mayor said, and the improvements to the park. And then the mayor did question what happened last year, and it appeared to come out of the street and roads budget. Possibly, we didn't really drill down on that.
Okay, and this one I probably should have asked before, but the Office of Emergency Management salaries is down 8,000, but other expenses is up 10,500. Did you put a salary in other expense?
Kitty, can you weigh in on that? What didn't we budget?
That was, Pat, that was just a misposting, where the O&E went into salaries last year instead of the O&E. We just, it was just misposted. I misposted it. So
Misposted it this year or last year?
Last year.
For 25, it was reversed. It
Okay.
should have went into OE rather than to the salaries.
So 26 is stated correctly.
Right.
Okay. And my last question, I promise. So, the salaries for the fire department went up considerably, more than the police. That is a bigger budget anyway. Is that because of a new contract or something? Or, I mean, did we promote a lot of people, or because it went up a lot?
It did.
Actually, if you remember correctly, we just did the fire department, the firemen, the EMTs, and the fire officers' contracts were signed for this year. The police union contracts are not up until the end of 2026, so we'll be getting into their contracts. So they're still on the old contracts from 4 years ago. That's why there's the heavy increase in the firemen's and EMT salaries.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corzo. Additional questions by council members? Okay. So nothing at this time by the council. Again, as Mr. de Blasio stated before, if you do come up with additional questions, please reach out to Mr. Holland, to Mayor LaRon, to Kitty, or to Patrick in the next couple of weeks. Keep pouring over those budgets. Good questions. Keep coming up with more of them. If you don't have questions, that's fine, and that's great. But if you do, don't be bashful. So, in the meantime, Kitty and Patrick, thank you both for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
We'll see you again in a couple of weeks then.
Thanks.
Thank you. That brings me to reports of boards, committees. There is no old business. So reports of boards, committees, and commissions. I'll start with Mr. Merrill.
Hi, Mr. President. No, nothing at this time. Thank you.
Got it. Ms. Miller, anything?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
That's all right. You could have just given me a thumbs down. I would.
I know. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me.
That's all right. Thanks. Vice President McIntyre.
So last week at the EDC meeting, we were talking about there's a downtown rehabilitation subcommittee And this comes up all the time, the lack of parking in downtown. And, like to try to boost businesses, make businesses more desirable, we need more parking. And of course, like one way to get parking is to acquire properties and turn it into parking, but then, you're losing tax revenue on those parcels. But one idea that did come up was and it's come up before in the master plan, what would be to make Somerset Street one way in the southbound direction. So, and if Somerset Street were one way, you'd be able to do angle parking possibly on both sides, which would increase the number of spaces available. And there's a lot of questions regarding this, so I'm not like suggesting we jump right into that, but like one of the questions is, if Somerset Street, right now Somerset Street is two ways, northbound and southbound. If we made Somerset Street only southbound, would Watchung Avenue be able to pick up the slack from, additional cars, or would you have to like then make Grove Street on the other side, possibly one way northbound, to balance it? So, and of course, we would need buy-in. We would have to study to see if it's even, how many spaces would we gain, to make it. And it wouldn't be like the whole length of Somerset Street. It would just be the part like probably from maybe Greenbrook Road south to Craig Place, or, the part of the core of the business district. So these are just the concepts that came up in the meeting. And I just wanted to bring it up to council just to see if this is something that we want to pursue.
Yeah, council, I don't know if you kind of have a straw poll. You want to endorse that at this point, that they should look into that, or if you want to kill it.
Can I just say one thing? So this is, I know that our two boards are overlapping. The planning board is looking into the same thing with subcommittees and all that. I think Tom Fagan is in your board.
Yes.
So he's bringing us information on it, but that's one to also to discuss. That's an idea. And I would be for it, but as long as some kind of, and I know there's going to be a traffic subcommittee in the planning board too, so that's overlapping, everybody's overlapping. But, obviously the police would have to do, and Paul Greikel will have to do some kind of study, whatever, but that's a very interesting idea, Steve. Very interesting.
And in this case, Ms. Corzo, I think overlap a lot of times is redundant, but in this case, I think the overlap is good and potentially very productive.
Absolutely.
So that's good. Ms. Schaefer.
Yeah, we've done this already. We did that when we did the last master plan. That was, I don't know, Dave, you're gonna have to remember this. I remember I talked to Mike about it. We didn't redo the master plan at one time, but there was an amendment put to it. And they did a study about how many cars go north and south on Somerset Street, and how we should make Somerset Street one way and then Watchung the other way. And it had something to do with also changing. What is that street? It's only one block long. It's the last street in North Plainfield that you make a right on.
Pearl?
No.
Pearl or Craig?
No.
Race
Next
Street?
one.
Race?
No, next one.
Harmony?
No, the other way, towards Plainfield.
Well, Craig and Pearl are the last streets. That's where the traffic signal is right now.
Somerset Place.
Somerset Place, is that it? It's on the right. It's only
it's a dead end, right?
Yeah, and it's behind a building in Plainfield.
But that's north of the Craig and Pearl intersection, and it dead ends. It does not go through to Dewar.
I know, but there was something that I'm telling you, there was something where they wanted to change the flow of traffic. They did it a couple years ago. I was not on the council at the time, but it was after the last during the last master plan. Mm-hmm. I know I didn't dream it.
Some of that information might be out there already then.
I don't remember that specifically as a separate document that was added to the master plan. I think you've all seen the master plan, and I'm not even sure if that's addressed in the master plan as a one-way pair.
We had done this study. I was at a planning board meeting when the gentleman came and gave a presentation, and I thought he was a planner.
I don't recall that personally, but
Yeah, I'll have to ask Mike if he could remember that again.
and just from my own personal experience too, there's issues with one-way pair streets are somewhat controversial. They move traffic flow, and as you point out, we can provide parking, but it also cuts down almost by half the amount of traffic that is on Somerset Street.
It
So
would.
some of the businesses that are there approaching from the other direction, it's going to inconvenience them as well as some of the residents who might now have to make a loop around to go back to the business or house that they want to go to. So it has it can work in certain locations, but it is somewhat of a controversial traffic solution.
Right. Hmm.
Anyway, Mr. McTighe, it sounds like for the planning board's already exploring it, but it sounds like we're kind of endorsing having the EDC, do it in sort of, I guess, parallel to the planning board as well. So good luck with that.
All right, I just don't like what I don't know what the right steps to proceed would be.
I don't. Well, we can figure that out, Mr. Holland.
I believe there's a planning board subcommittee that has been tasked to look at that, or we're doing economic development, Amy, but I
Yeah.
thought there was another committee
And
that
parking. I'm sorry.
parking and that.
Parking comes up all the time, but there's a subcommittee. I think Larry's the one who's chairing it.
Yeah, the traffic committee, and that's on my notes to bring up to the subcommittee next time we meet. But as Steve said, he wanted to bring it to the council, see if it's something you wanted to start working on now and not wait until we get the master plan going, where it seems to be the biggest issue of parking downtown. That seems to be the most complaints we hear what's going on downtown. So my suggestion to Steve was bring it to the council, see if they want to have us start working on this now and not wait until the master plan gets rewritten, which could take a year, 2 years, or 3 years. Is this something you want to look at now?
Well, at the very least, I think I'd like to wait and see what the subcommittees come up with before we start jumping in. I mean, whether we wait until the master plan is fully endorsed in 2 years or not, I don't know, but we might at least see what work the subcommittees what relevant work the subcommittees come up with before we do anything as a council. I don't know how everyone else feels. That's how I feel. Just before that might be a place where redundancy is not a good thing. Too many cooks in the broth and all that. So that's how I feel. I don't know if anyone else feels differently.
So can we just I'm just curious like how everyone feels. Can we just do a straw poll to see like is everyone in favor of not necessarily doing it, but at least studying it to see if it would be beneficial?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
No, thank you. Anything else from no? Okay. Ms. Corzo.
Nothing further at this time. No.
Okay. Ms. Schaefer.
Nothing at this time.
All right. And Ms. Gibbon.
Hi, sorry for joining late.
No, thanks for coming.
No, thank you. I just want to acknowledge that it's Ramadan, which is an important time of the year for many families in our community. Time of fasting, prayer, community events, really kind of that moment of reflection in their year. And I just kind of want to acknowledge that because I know it matters to quite a few people and quite a few families in our community.
Excellent. Good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no reports or anything. And so at this point, I'm going to call to see if there's a motion to adjourn this meeting. We can go into the next one. Motion to adjourn the agenda conference.
Second.
5 minutes?
Yes. But the motion was made by you, Amy?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, Ms. Miller made the motion. Ms. Schaefer seconded it. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? All right. This meeting is adjourned. We're going to take a 5-minute break and then come back and then do our regular meeting. See you in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hmm. Give everybody another minute or so to come back on. We'll start back up.
Excuse me.
Give Miss Gibbon a second to come back and. Okay. All right. Mr. Actually, Mr. McIntyre too. And Miss Miller now. Okay. Give Miss Miller another second.
Had to reattach my ice machine.
Oh,
I'm
how's that going?
I'm icing my knee because I just had knee replacement on Friday. So apologize for sitting in a reclining chair for this meeting.
What did you replace it with, Steve?
Titanium rods.
Nice.
They say that's like one of the hardest surgeries you'll ever have to go through.
Yeah.
Recover wise.
Now I know why people don't go back for the second one. I know I will, but.
All right, well, since everybody's here, I'm going to call the regular meeting to order and let the record reflect. Actually, why don't we do a roll call?
Yes. Corzo,
Please.
Present.
BP McIntyre,
Here.
Merrill,
Here.
Miller,
Present.
I'm sorry, Gibbon,
Present.
Schaefer,
Present.
Council President.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. And the statement of compliance. This is a meeting of the council of the Borough of North Plainfield, scheduled by resolution of the council adopted on November 10th of 2025, so just last year, just a few months ago. Adequate notice of this meeting was given pursuant to NJSA 10:4-6 at SEC by transmitting said notice to the Borough of North Plainfield's website and to the Courier News on November 24th of 2025, and by posting a copy of this notice on the bulletin boards, which are reserved for that purpose, both in the municipal building and in the Memorial Library. The first item, we're the Pledge of Allegiance. So the first item, action item on the agenda is approval of council meeting minutes from the last time we met, and that was a regular meeting on February 9th. Madam Acting Clerk, may we have a roll call, please, for that?
Yes. Corzo,
Yes.
Gibbon,
Yes.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Abstain.
Council President.
Yes.
I have six ayes and one abstain.
Excellent. Thank you. And when you're ready, we'll take a reading, please, of the next item.
Okay. Hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 26-01. An ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement ordinance number 22-02, governing the salaries of certain employees of the Borough of North Plainfield.
Excellent. Thank you. We now open the floor for a public hearing regarding this particular item. And the format is pretty similar to regular public comment, which this isn't really regular public comment, but the format's pretty much the same. Anyone intending to speak on this, we just ask you give us your name, spell your last name for us, and give us your address. And then each member of the public gets 5 minutes to speak about this. But the difference between this and public comment is there is no collective time limit on a hearing. So we open the floor to a hearing. And again, if you want to speak, just turn your camera on and wave at us or indicate through the various means on Zoom your desire to speak. We'll give everybody a second for that. Okay. Seeing no one indicated an interest in speaking during the hearing, is there a motion by a council member to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing.
And second.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Miller, seconded by Ms. Given. May we have a roll call on closing this public hearing, please?
Corzo,
Yes.
Given,
Yes.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
We have a unanimous vote.
Great. Thank you. And the resolution belongs to Mr. Merrill, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is resolution number 02-23-26-01. The Borough of North Plainfield, the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. Be it resolved by the Council of the Borough of North Plainfield that an ordinance number 26-01 be adopted and advertised as required by statute. I so move.
Second.
This item, 2601, is moved by Mr. Merrill, seconded by Ms. Corzo. And may we have a roll call, please?
Corzo,
Yes.
Given,
Yes.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
I have a unanimous vote.
Terrific. Good. And the next item belongs to Ms. Miller, please. Next resolution.
Resolution number 02-23-26-01, Borough of North Plainfield, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. Be it resolved by the Borough Council of North Plainfield that an ordinance number 26-02 be read by its title by the Borough Clerk and be passed on its first reading and advertised as required by statutes, fixing March 9, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard as the time and the North Plainfield Council Chambers, 2263 Somerset Street, North Plainfield, New Jersey, or Zoom as the place for hearing and final adoption. I so move.
Second.
Great. This is moved by Ms. Miller, seconded by Ms. Schaefer. May we have a roll call, please, on 02?
Corzo,
Yes.
Given,
Yes.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
We have a unanimous vote.
Excellent. Thank you. And when you're ready, we'll take a reading of the title, please.
Introduction of ordinance number 26-02. An ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 22 of the Borough Code entitled Land Development, most notably Section 22-113B, entitled AHO Affordable Housing Overlay Zone, and to add new Section 22-113C, entitled AHO-1 Affordable Housing Overlay Zone, and new Section 22-113D, entitled AHO-2 Age Restricted Affordable Housing Overlay Zone.
Thank you. The next resolution, 03, is Ms. Schaefer's.
Thank you. Resolution number 0223-26-02, Borough of North Plainfield, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. Be it resolved by the Borough Council of North Plainfield that an ordinance number 26-03 be read by the title by the Borough Clerk, and be passed on its first reading and advertised as required by statute, fixing March 9th. Fixing March 9th, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard as the time and North Plainfield Council Chambers, 263 Somerset Street, North Plainfield, New Jersey, or Zoom as the place for hearing and final adoption. I so move.
Second.
Item is moved by Ms. Schaefer and seconded by Vice President McIntyre. May we have a roll call on this, please?
Corzo,
Yes.
Given,
Yes.
McIntyre,
Yes.
Merrill,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
We have a unanimous vote.
Terrific. Thank you. When you're ready, we'll take a reading of the title, please.
Introduction of ordinance number 26-03. An ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement Chapter 22 of the Borough Code entitled Land Development, most notably Section 22-131, entitled Affordable Housing Regulations, Section 22-132, entitled Development Fees, and Section 22-133, entitled Inclusionary Housing Requirements for Rezoning and Variances.
Thank you. And this now brings us to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. No separate discussion of these items. There is no separate discussion of these items, but if any discussion is desired by council, that particular item will be removed from the consent agenda and then will be considered separately. Does any council member have any questions regarding any items on the consent agenda? Does any council member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Okay, in that case, the consent agenda is Ms. Corzo's.
Thank you. Resolution number 02-23-26-04, Borough of North Plainfield, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. Be it resolved by the Council of the Borough of North Plainfield that resolutions number 02-23-26-04 A through I having been placed on the consent agenda and there having been no objection thereto, the same are hereby approved. I so move.
Second.
Consent agenda is moved by Ms. Corzo, seconded by Ms. Miller. May we have a roll call on the consent agenda, please?
Yes. Corzo?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes.
McIntyre?
Yes.
Merrill?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
We have a unanimous vote.
Terrific. Thank you. As we go through the rest of the agenda, you see a list of communications that we've received since the last time we met, DEP and League of Municipalities. And we also, as a council, and it's available for public consumption, police reports, their monthly report from the month of January, and also the fire department's monthly report from January. And then, so council, at this point, I'm going to ask you if you have any requests for agenda items, anything we haven't brought to my attention before. I'll ask you now, and if not, you can always shoot me an email later. Ms. Miller?
Sure, just a resolution celebrating March as Women's History Month.
You got it. Ms. Gary, you take note of that, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Terrific. Thank you.
That's Council President.
Awesome. Anything else? All right. So that now brings us, and if you come up with anything, just reach out to me anytime. This now brings us again to our second and final public comment portion of the evening. And the format's the same as before. We don't mandate, we just simply request. You give us your name, spell your last name for us, then give us your address. Each member of the public wishing to speak is up to 5 minutes for that portion, or for that purpose, rather. And the public comment session, in theory, could last for a collective 30 minutes. Mr. V, let me try again. Vincileos. Was it?
That's good enough. That's good enough. Vingileos, you're right there, though. I appreciate
it's
that.
more like a J. Vingileos. Okay.
Yeah, the
TZ
it's a Greek name. The TZ is pronounced as a J. There's no J in the Greek alphabet.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, first thing I'll say is you guys are running a pretty good meeting. This is one of the reasons why this should be shown to the public, because I do think, from what I can tell, that all of you do take your elected roles serious and your dedication to the community. And I think that's something that, you should be, excited to show the residents. Last meeting, well, I'll start by saying I want to thank the clerk, Genesis, during the beginning of January when I requested the Zoom meeting of when I attended. She got back and she fulfilled the request within like 24 hours. I've made a lot of open Oprah requests in many different municipalities, and most towns are not that efficient. So I was very pleased to see that done in such a short amount of time. I had stated at that meeting that one of the things I want to start doing is at least, making these meetings publicly available on my campaign page for, people to actually see the meetings while we're still in the process of, figuring out, how to make the meetings available. the last meeting I was at, where Mr. McIntyre was acting as council president, he had asked me, what towns, do a hybrid that, kind of like point in the right direction as to, how this could be done, kind of thing. I don't know if anything was looked into since then. One of the towns that I think does a great job with the hybrid meetings is actually Plainfield. Unfortunately, after that last meeting, there was people, who called in all over the state. One of them was the former councilman from Teaneck. He had brought up to the council about some successful open public meeting lawsuits that he had brought against BOE in his town in Teaneck. And there was a lot of, pushback from the public with that decorum resolution. So it was unfortunate because the Mayor Mapp wound up putting out a statement some days ago saying that due to the emergency order that they put on Zoom meetings, they're taking the position that the state is forcing them to go back to just in person. I know that's a load of crap because they didn't want to handle the criticism. And if that was the case, that would mean that here in Plainfield, you would have to do away with the Zoom meetings. And I think that's ridiculous,
Just so you know, I did consult with our attorneys for, like, hey, we can still do a Zoom meeting, right? And I didn't even know that there was going to be like this snowstorm coming, like to the extent that it was. I just figured particularly because we had Mr. Greigel speaking before, and I don't want to cut into your time, so you can certainly answer.
No, I appreciate
I asked him, like, we can still do Zoom, right? And the attorney's like, yeah. And the acting clerk, Miss Gary, looked into it as well with other clerks and the Clerks Association, and they were like, yeah, this shouldn't be a problem. I don't mean to criticize our neighbors across the brook, what they're doing.
I don't either.
But I agree with you. Yeah, it's not a problem, and we're gonna.
It's.
So
I mean,
just
be honest to the. I mean, this isn't a North Plainfield issue, but in terms of Plainfield, just be honest to the residents. You can't, get out of the kitchen if you can't take the heat. You know what I mean? Don't do stupid stuff, and you won't have, people being upset about things. But that would have been the direction I would have pointed, anybody in terms of, who does a good hybrid meeting. Unfortunately, those days are over, but I guess that's their way of trying to, make it seem like, I've made things worse, even though at that point I was hands off, not going back there anymore. But just want to throw that in, and wondering if there is any steps that have been taken to figure out how to make these meetings available. And also, are the meetings filmed when they're in person? Is a question I wanted to know.
No, so the only way they're filmed, so to speak, is when they're on Zoom. You can get a video recording of them. We'd have an audio recording of the meetings when we're in person, and of course, there's a meeting minutes, which they're meeting minutes, not a transcript. There's that distinction there. But yeah, we don't have, and we as a council, we as individuals and the mayor, we've talked about this issue on and off for the past couple of years, especially after COVID, about getting our meetings recorded and then putting them on the borough website or on, I think there's a public access channel on FiOS or on cable or whatever it is. We've talked about that. The problem has been the outlay of money for the equipment and then hiring someone to handle, because we even talked about, let's talk to the high school and get like a student in the AV club. And then it was like, well, first off, is there still an AV club? Number one. Number two, what do you do with the student? Like when we're still having council meetings in June and July and August, and the student is away at summer camp or at the beach or whatever, visiting grandma, whatever. So we have talked about it. And I think it's something that for budgetary reasons and like we just keep kicking it down the road, but it's something we really do want to do. And I think that maybe with this budget, it's something we can put the money into. It's going to be an outlay in terms of money, in terms of equipment and personnel, getting someone to do it, because I'm not going to ask the clerk to do it because they have really sort of legally appointed responsibilities in meeting. I'm not going to ask the mayor to dump it on the administrator. I'm not, so we got to figure it out, but it's something we want to do because even though our meeting's generally not terribly exciting, admittedly so, it is something we should be having out there. And again, yeah, you can get a video copy if we do Zoom. You can get an audio copy if we're in person. But it is kind of nice. I do like that towns that do have, and I think you've probably been to Cranford meetings, and I'm not holding them up as any shining example of what to do. But their meetings have very nice, if you look at them online, they have really nice production values. And they have the equipment, they have the personnel. And I'm like, that's kind of what I like to do. not in terms of how they interact with you, but just in terms of how they record and put their stuff up on the internet. That's kind of a good standard to try and meet. I think also our local board of education, I think that they record their meetings and have some sort of hybrid. I'm actually going to, if it's okay with you, our liaison to the Board of Ed is Ms. Given, and she may know more about what the Board of Ed does and how they do it than I do. Mr. Vingeles, would it be okay to turn it over to Ms. Given just for a second, if she can respond to that?
Sure.
Ms. Given, do
Yeah,
you know
they have a
how
whole
they handle
team.
that?
Yeah, they do. They have a whole team at their meetings. They're set up in the back of the room. They have at least two people usually there, one working the sound and one working the video equipment. And then they
Are they
actually,
students or are they professionals?
no,
Like,
they're actual staff.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I think because it's the kind of equipment it is and the way in which they have to handle the materials and those kinds of things, it's really something that's kind of more left to an adult who is aware of the rules, the regulations, and the laws and those kinds of things. But they actually live stream their meetings with no comments allowed from people who are watching the live stream component. And so, but then they're not available video after that, right? They're only available live. And then you can't comment. So if you wanted to comment, you do need to be in person. And they do always meet in person. They are looking
I
at
appreciate that.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, mostly what I think is important is just making them available to be viewed. You know, if commenting is only being there in person, I personally don't necessarily have too much of a disagreement with that. And I do think there's ADA issues in terms of like, Title II of the ADA making reasonable accommodations for, residents who are disabled to participate and whatnot. But I do appreciate the answers and you guys, you run in a good meeting, and these, whether they're maybe dull or boring to certain people and stuff like that, you should be proud of the work that you're doing, working. But it does sound like you are working toward, trying to make those meetings available. Just two other things. That
Sure,
resident had
please.
reached back and said that at 8:11 p.m., plows finally came down Girard Avenue. So she was happy about that. So I wanted to communicate that with you guys that they finally got down her road.
Awesome,
And
thank you.
other than that, if you guys are ever interested in looking at some of the stuff I do or the work that I've been involved in the last few years, I have a YouTube channel, Social Justice Water Pipe, that you're all welcome to check out. Water Pipe is one word. Social Justice Water Pipe on YouTube, and if you care to take the time and see some of the stuff that I've been doing over the years, feel more than free. And other than that, I appreciate the communication during the public comment portion. A lot of towns will restrict, like, as a Q&A, like their policy is we don't. I think that's bad for participation and community involvement and everything like that. And I'm personally proud to live in a town that does this communication that you guys are doing during public comment. So with that being said, I appreciate all of you.
Well, I appreciate that. Years ago, we used to have a council president whose view of public comment is that's exactly how he treated was public comment, and he would not answer questions, or he would, but like he would answer them at the end of the night, and the person might or might not still be there. And I always thought that was kind of a bad way to conduct business. So I try to not do that. So thank you for recognizing that. We do the best we can. Sometimes, you ask a question and we might not know an answer, and we'll like, hey, can I think about that? Get back to you at the end of the night, or can I get back to you at the next meeting, whatever. But like generally, it's the free flow of information. If you ask a question, we're all here, right? I mean, we got the administrator, the mayor, we have financial experts. I've got us, we got the attorney. Like, hey, that's what we're here for. So, I'm not resistant to that. Basically, I think it's foolish.
I've
I think
been
it's
I've been all
foolish when
over.
other towns do. They get their hackles up, and it just
I've been
it's
all
foolish.
over the state, Skip. You preside over a good meeting. You should want the public to see that for sure. This is how a meeting should be conducted during that public comment portion. So yeah, with that being said, I appreciate all you guys, and thank you for the answers and the clarification and all the communication. It's much appreciated.
No, not at all. Thank you. Thanks for your thoughts. Thank you. Additional public comment. I actually don't think there's anyone else in the public on. just making sure. Okay, now we're going to go to comments by the mayor, the administrator, and council. Mayor Laurent.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Holland.
Yes, just one quick follow-up to something I mentioned at the last meeting. The tree survey is now underway in the borough. That started this past Monday. So that'll be going on over the next couple months, identifying and evaluating all of the borough owned trees in the right-of-way and in the parks. Thank you. That's it.
Great. Cool. Thank you. Start with up top, Ms. Schaefer.
Are you sure? No. I would say
Like I
nothing
said, that's
at this
why we're
time.
here.
I know. I have to tell you about the resident on Girard. We had a gentleman do our plowing over here on Locust, and the poor guy got stuck. And our hill in his truck, it was a yellow truck. Is it Massacola? Is that? Yeah.
Massacola?
Isn't it that the company, Massacola or something?
Massacola, they're out of Plainfield, yeah.
So we just have this little hill on Locust, but the poor guy, I'm going to tell you, they sent him out here. There's no chains on his tires.
Oh.
And, with the bucket, it's like he just wasn't, it's not the driver's fault. It's, they didn't, prepare their vehicle properly, I think. So I could vouch for that actually happening because it happened here on Locust. We gave the guy some shovels, offered him coffee, but he called someone else to come and help him out. So it does happen. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Corzo.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Merrill.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. A lot of times we take the Department of Public Works, for granted. And they've endured really two major storms and a lot of challenges in a tightly knit borough of streets. And they've faced difficult odds. And I think they've done a great job working all through the night, 3, 4, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I think it's appropriate at some point that they be recognized, and I'm not looking for anything major. It's their jobs, and I can appreciate that, whether they're receiving overtime or holiday pay. But I think if the mayor's office or the council, in some form, just to appreciate them, because I don't think they get appreciated enough, certainly by the residents. And I think it's our job to kind of oversee that and tell them just how much we do appreciate them. And maybe that's being done behind the scenes. And if it is, that's great. But I think something formal, should go out either from the mayor's office or the council or both, just recognizing them, especially having to endure, two really major storms that have hit on the weekend and in the middle of the night. We wake up and our streets are pretty much plowed. That doesn't happen by accident. And these guys are out there 3, 4, like I said, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'd like to see them get recognized some way, just formally as, hey, we know you're out there. We appreciate you. Keep up the good work. That would mean a lot to them. Like I said, if it's already being done by the mayor, kudos. If it's not, I think it should be.
Nice idea. Nice sentiment.
So somebody
Mayor,
could draft.
I think the mayor wants to respond to that.
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Merrill, I will tell you that I was out today driving around, personally stopped and talked to almost every DPW driver I could see to thank them for the extra work they're doing and let them know that we appreciate it, not just my office, but the council and the residents. I've also stepped up and personally bought them lunches to let them know just how much we appreciate what they're doing.
That's great.
We can do something more formal if you'd like. I mean, we can always ask them to come to a council meeting and, thank them publicly. That's up to you as a council, but just want to let you know, yes, I am doing stuff behind the scenes and talking to them as often as I can.
That's great, Mayor.
I was out driving around today, just checking out the roads and letting them know that we're there.
That's great, Mayor. Yeah, that goes a long way.
Yes.
So well done.
Yeah, and I saw Angelo swung by my house. He was going a different direction, but I waved to him. He stopped over and I said, "Hey, just want you to tell the guys that they're doing a bang up job. And I know it's been challenging circumstances, not just today and last night, but the previous storm too." And I said, please pass the word that, duly impressed, very, very impressed, and hats off to them, kudos." So he also said he was going to pass that down the chain. So, but yeah, no, Everett, if you want something more formal, let Larry and I know. We'll cook something up. But so give it some thought and let us know.
I think, there's nothing more better, for lack of a better phrase, than a personal touch. And individually we can do that. And what the mayor did, I think, is perfectly accurate.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't. That's why I said there's stuff going on. And sure enough, there was, and I think that's great. So kudos, well done, Mayor. Thank you.
And I probably really appreciated the sandwiches and coffee too, Mr. Mayor. I mean, that really puts a finer point on your appreciation. That probably goes a long way. Well done, sir. Thank you, Mr. Merrill. Ms. Given.
Not this time, thank you.
Okay. Mr. McIntyre.
Nothing for me. Thanks.
All right. We'll feel better soon. Ms. Miller.
Yeah, hats off to DPW as well. Nothing else to add at this time.
All right. Well, very good. Well, I have nothing either, but nothing additional. And so that kind of brings us to the end of the meeting. So I'm basically looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And second?
Okay. Motion made by Ms. Miller, second by Ms. Given. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any objections or abstentions? All right. In that case, this meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
See you all in a couple
everyone.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.